My first question is a very general one. Why do you think that this position is uncontested so frequently?
Yes, that's a question I've actually got quite a lot of. I think it's because the education officer, because they're kind of in charge of the constitution and upholding it, and it's a lot, like it's a very large admin role. I think someone within the union is almost like it's not necessary, but it's just a lot of people think that it has to be someone from within inside the union. So you'd have to have experience in things like class rep training, to organise one, things like that, and to get class reps organised, which is the education officer's brief. I think it's someone who has, like, you have to have been a class rep to do it. So I think it often ends up being someone from within inside the union. Also, a lot of people don't particularly know what the education officer does other than casework. So when they hear about the other stuff, they're like, oh, okay, that's a lot. But it's all toward the same goal. So it's not as, although there's lots of things to be done in the position, it's a lot of it is aimed at kind of direct, like it is directly education. Also, I think a lot of the other positions, you can have different skills, like you can get your skills from other areas. So welfare, you've like a really good stronghold on campus if you've done something like S2S or peer support, or just you're really into it. Whereas the education officer needs to kind of be, it's a more structured position. So I think a lot of people feel like it has to be someone from within inside the union, and that's probably why.
Obviously, the education officer has been responsible this year for the Women in Leadership project,
Yes.
which has had incredibly good, as you can see with all the candidates, it's been really positively received. How will you further improve this project, or do you have plans to further improve this project next year?
I would definitely like to keep the project going. I think this year we got a lot of, like, the Women in Leadership campaign got a lot of traction from both genders. It wasn't a specific, like, which is really, really good. It shouldn't, and it wasn't only women can go to the Women in Leadership kind of talks. I think how I'd further develop it next year is, because it was its first year running, a lot of people didn't know about it or didn't know what to expect from it. And I think as well, what's happening at the Phil this year is they're doing their Women in Leaderships as well, because of the Eliz, it's the anniversary. So they've decided to do that, and we can definitely team up with more societies and get more involvement around campus in general, not specifically for the SU, but for its first year in the running, it's done amazingly well.
Okay, so what do you feel is the biggest academic issue in college right now?
Curriculum changes. So the curriculums in a majority of courses haven't changed in, like, some for like hundreds of years. Like, lecturers will put on new reading materials, things like that. But because we're, like, the world itself is diversifying rapidly, I don't think that, and sometimes the university doesn't do that as quickly. So the courses do course management reviews, which we recently did in science. And I think to get their student feedback on those, which they did excellently, is really important. So they're trying to change the curriculum, but they need to include the students in it. But I think curriculum changes need to happen, and we need to get input from industry as well, because a lot of our graduates are not finding jobs as easily because they don't have the extendable skills they need. Like, even basic things like how to do animations on PowerPoint, how to code in Excel needs to be known throughout all of college, not just everything's on a computer, whether you like it or not. That's how the world is changing, and college definitely needs to change with that to get a lot more students equipped for that.
Do you feel there are too many referendums in the Students' Union?
I think sometimes, yes. It depends. Like, the Students' Union is the only way that you can take a political stance on campus. So no society can have a political stance. So it's really good in the sense that students at least feel like they're getting their voice heard. What I think happens sometimes is that a bunch of students who are really enthusiastic about an issue decide to take a referendum up with the Students' Union, campaign on it for 2 weeks, and that almost, sometimes not always, as we've seen with things like marriage equality and the abortion referendum we had, like, people are continually striving for it, whereas some other referendums that we have had in the past have kind of lacked because people have campaigned for the 2 weeks, gotten what they wanted, and then it's not pushed further. So I think the SU isn't always the way to go with a referendum. I think there are some other ways, and I think there should be, like, more student activism in general, and I think we should format that in more of a society way than an SU way, because sometimes the SU can't do all that much, because obviously, like, we are only the Students' Union, and as much as I want to work for it and love it, it doesn't have a political, it doesn't make big political impacts, whereas a lot of the time protest marching and coming up with groups that are outside of campus is a much better way to do it. So it depends on the cause, but maybe there should be less referendums, but there shouldn't be more names for people for referendums, which was discussed at council, to get more people to have to sign up in order to hold a referendum. I don't think that should happen. And I spoke on that because it just reduces how people feel that they can interact with the Students' Union. A lot of people will interact with their class reps, a lot of people will interact with the Sabbats and House 6, but a lot of people won't. So you have to consider that as well, and a lot of people, it is their only involvement in the Students' Union, and they should feel like the Students' Union is doing something for them too.
Of the academic goals, specifically the academic goals in the strategic plan, which do you feel is the most important?
The entrepreneurship. So the School of Entrepreneurship in the business school that's being developed, I would hope that they develop that more so outside the business school as well, into other courses. So what we've gotten from things like Launchbox is that the university does do that, but that should definitely be developed more. Like, people in all courses should have to take a class in entrepreneurship and develop people develop training their graduates further.
And my final question is quite simple. Obviously, the education officer sits on a lot of committees in college, and I'd like to know, what is your biggest priority for your role in college committees, and how will you achieve that?
The biggest priority is definitely getting the student issues of the time there. So I think I'm one student, I'm in one school, I'm in one faculty, and that doesn't mean that I know everything about the other faculties in the other schools. So I think it will take a little bit of time once I do get into the position to kind of understand the range of student issues. I think once you know that, you can bring everything to the table at committees. So hopefully I become more aware of other student issues that are outside of my faculty. As the current faculty convener for EMS, I've got a pretty good grasp on that, but like health science is a whole new set of issues, and I sit on those committees as well. So I think the most important thing will be getting to know those, and then going to committees with that firepower behind you. And I can't answer what issues are the biggest at the moment, because there might be a massive issue in the faculty of EMS and an absolutely gigantic one in HS. So my priorities will be with student issues and student services. But for right now, I know a handful of them, like the counselling service being cut, like systematically cutting the capitative bodies. But other than that, I need to know what happens in other faculties. So with that, I'll work with the faculty convener.